This video contains major spoilers for Monster Hunter Wilds. Oh boy, this was a massively anticipated game. Not just for me, but for millions of other people as well. World was a massive success that catapulted this niche little Japanese series into the mainstream spotlight. Wilds uses World as a foundation and expands upon it to create a game that I will dump hundreds of hours into. I'm Ouroboros. Let's talk. Usually in the first part of my reviews, I give a quick rundown of the early stages of the plot. For Monster Hunter, the plot was never really a thing. I mean, it's there, just like salads at McDonald's, but really, who is going to McDonald's for a salad? That was the same for World, and even more so for Rise. But Wilds actually has a story that is more than just, hey, there's a monster over there that's causing trouble, go kill it. It's a narrative that's not necessarily winning any awards, but it was way more compelling than I ever expected it could be. You are the lead hunter of an expedition to the Forbidden Lands, an area that the rest of the world doesn't go to because reasons. You're tasked with exploring this new area and helping Nata find his home, Nata being this boy who your compatriots found unconscious in the desert. And that's really it for the early stages of the plot. Like I said, it's nothing special, but it does lay the groundwork for the game ahead. One thing I really enjoyed about the setting is that, in World, you felt like an explorer, and that land was already mostly charted. You were part of the 5th Fleet, so there were already 4 waves of people who beat you to the new world. However, in Wilds, as the name implies, you're really the first group of Westerners to explore this new land. And much like the New World in real life, there are already people settled in this new area. These people feel radically distinct from one another. They all have their own cultures and traditions, they all have their own ways of greeting one another. It's a nice little touch that you pick up on really quickly. The game never spends much time delving into specific customs of each group, but it's enough to make it feel like Capcom thought deliberately about it. Nata is really the driving force behind the narrative. His journey to find his people fuels many of your decisions and interactions with other characters. It's odd to think that the hunter, the character you play as, is more of a supporting role. That's really how it goes. Even with the wealth of voice lines that the hunter gets, which is one thing that I was happily surprised with, Nata is the main character. You're really just there for the firepower. The search for the Keepers does eventually lead you back to Suja, his home, and surprisingly, Tashin is in fact still alive. I think we were all expecting the village to have been decimated by Arkveld based off, everything that we had seen, but this was a welcome outcome. It's a touching reunion that leads into the big revelation of the plot. Arkveld, as well as the other Guardians, are synthetic life. They were created by, a long-lost advanced civilization. I was secretly hoping for an equal dragon weapon type of thing to show up. I know at this point Capcom is never gonna pull that trigger, but if they ever do, I'm gonna lose my mind. It's nice to see Nata's character growth throughout the game. The game isn't exactly subtle about his connection with Arkveld, the two taking mirroring pathways towards freedom, but Nata grows to understand and care for the ecosystem surrounding his journey, whereas Arkveld takes pleasure in destroying the natural world around him. And that leads me to something that I adore about this game. It's not necessarily the story or the setting, but rather how those two elements interact with each other. See, Monster Hunter was always about nature. Even if the games didn't really do a great job of honing in on that theme, they always treated the natural world with sincere reverence. You can really see that in the monster designs. They are carefully crafted to not only create interesting designs and fantastical fights, but they are intentionally created to reflect real-world biology. It's something that this series does far and away better than any other. In Wilds, that design philosophy is still prevalent, no doubt, but it's in the story that we really see it shine through. Every single story hunt is for a specific reason. Whether it's a monster destroying the local ecosystem, one that's terrorizing villagers, or to put down a specifically dangerous monster. Everything has a purpose. They make it very clear that, in spite of the game literally being called Monster Hunter, they aren't wasteful hunts. One addition really drives home this respect for nature. It's the small talks that you have when you and your party are traveling to different areas. They serve dual purposes. The first is to easily familiarize yourself with the local area and ecology. They could have just put in a quick introductory cutscene and then sent you on your way, but no. They crafted these conversations to further the narrative, but also let you soak in the beautiful areas they created. I mean, outside of these times, you're mostly focused on the fights and zipping from one area to the next. So these opportunities to relish in the wildlife are a welcome break. The second reason is to develop the characters a little more. It's nothing major. Like I said, I don't think the story is winning any awards. It's not the reason we buy these games, but it's a massive upgrade over previous titles. If there's one thing that did really bug me with the narrative, is that there's so much time in between the voice lines, like agonizingly long in some cases. It's clear that the Monster Hunter team doesn't have much experience with things like this because I think they chose to advance the voice lines after the animation had finished, rather than the audio. But it is what it is. With these new changes to the story, it feels like Capcom is taking Monster Hunter into more of a traditional mainstream AAA direction, which I'm sure you already have formed your own opinions about how the series is changing, so I won't try to sway you either way. However, I will give my own thoughts on the matter. The gameplay is superb. I don't think you can argue with that. Just the moment-to-moment gameplay of hunting monsters is truly exceptional, and Capcom should be proud of what they've accomplished with this series. Each title gives you new things to look forward to, new mechanics, new changes to weapons, new monsters. The formula always manages to stay fresh. I was disappointed that they didn't add a new weapon type. If you don't count Frontier, we haven't gotten a new weapon since Monster Hunter 4, which was, holy shit, 12 years ago. I guess you can count Prowler for Generations, but that game is still a decade old at this point. Again, that's not to say that the weapons have gotten dull. On the contrary, I feel like the weapons are just, if not more interesting than they've ever been. I don't think we'll see the experimental insanity of Generations for a while, but they've made so many tweaks and additions to the weapons that I had to look them up when I picked up the game. And I have like 1,000 hours in the series across a bunch of different games and generations. Where do I even begin with some of these changes? The big one is focus mode. I love this mechanic. It's a fantastic way to target parts. This has a couple of positive effects. For one, it allows you to more freely engage with each monster's specific mechanics. Tired of dealing with Rathlow's flying? Target its wings. Sick of getting tail swiped by Rathian? Go for the tail. It's an easy way to mold the fight into what you want. It also makes it easier to farm for specific materials. Every Blade Master knows the pain of needing a wing material for some monster. This helps you more efficiently farm for the materials that you need without having to find a new weapon and armor set. Focus mode also goes hand in hand with a new wound system. This feels like everything that the Clutch Claw wanted to be. In Iceborne, it was so hit or miss depending on the weapon. Certain weapons like Lance had the Clutch Claw integrated so seamlessly into its moveset that it only felt natural to adopt it when the DLC dropped. Others felt like mixing oil and water. But in Wilds, the wound system feels so organic in basically every weapon's moveset. It also helps that you don't get interrupted by a coked up angry monkey, and you hold your ground when you successfully strike a wound. You also usually get some type of stagger when you successfully land a hit. Maybe not a full knockdown, but at least a flinch. Even just typing all of this stuff out, I'm thinking about what an awesome combat system this is. It's seriously everything that tenderizing should have been. And of course, my favorite addition, the Power Clash. Holy shit, this thing is so badass. It's so cool. It's so sick. Like, I really don't know what else to say about this. It's such an amazing addition. And it's the cherry on top of the mountain of ice cream that is this game's combat system. Side note, I had to go and hunt Arkfeld a few times while writing this because I got too excited. Of course, there's a bunch of other changes to things like the decoration system, but I won't go into things like that or the other small quality of life changes because we'd be here forever. One half of the combat is, in fact, the absurdity of each weapon type. I know I mentioned that I was disappointed by no new weapons, but there's just so much variety here. My favorite so far has been the Sword and Shield. I kind of jumped on the SNS train during Rise and really started to fall in love with the weapon. It feels so good in Wilds, probably the best the weapon has ever felt. The addition of the Perfect Guard to all of the shielded weapons is a massive game changer. It turns the meager Sword and Shield into a powerful counterattacking option. SNS was already so versatile, and with its new options combined with the ability to almost instantly break wounds, it feels so fluid. Gunlance is also amazing. It is able to take advantage of the new guard points to reload your shells and keep up the offensive. Longsword feels as anime as ever, and I love it for that. If there's one weapon that I'm a little unsure of, it's Charge Blade. Perfect Guards essentially nerfed guard points. You can't even go into Savage Axe from a guard point now anyway, and the only way to instantly access your super amped elemental discharge is through a guard point or a perfect guard. I think it'll take just a little bit longer to get used to, but it still feels awesome. At the time of writing this, I'm around 35 hours in and I'm HR 75. So there's still so much experimentation left for me, and I'm really excited to test out some more weapons and see what else I can gel with. I've made a dedicated video about the amazing complexity of some of Monster Hunter's weapons. I'd recommend you check it out if you want to hear my full thoughts. I made it during 5th gen, so it's slightly out of date, but while some of the specifics of each weapon have changed, their fundamentals all remain. If you don't want to watch it, or are just too lazy to, just know that Monster Hunter has the most rewarding and engaging melee combat in any game that I have ever played. And Wilds continues that trend. There are few games that are able to tickle your dopamine receptors quite like Monster Hunter is able to. But there is one very important thing that I have yet to mention in this review. Probably the most important aspect of each Monster Hunter game. The monsters. These act as the characters of each game. Partly because the human characters don't really do much in each game outside of dialogue or selling/crafting things for you, but also because you spend more time with the monsters than anybody else in the game. I don't want to say that the lineup can make or break a game, but it plays a massive part in our enjoyment of it. World was criticized for being too lizard, dinosaur, dragon heavy. Even though many of the new and returning monsters were awesome in that game, it was a valid complaint. I understand why Capcom did it. They were trying to draw in way more people and didn't want to throw in too many crazy monsters. But with the catalog of diverse creatures in Capcom's back pocket, it did feel like a bit of a missed opportunity. However, Wilds has an incredibly varied monster roster from top to bottom. There aren't even that many duplicate monsters. Really only Guardian Rathalos, Dushagama, and Arkfeld are duplicates, and you can only fight Guardian Arkfeld once. It's not like World where it seems like every other fight is some type of variant. Plus, the new monsters are seriously amazing. I feel like Ajarikon is particularly underrated. Its combination of explosive attacks and quick melee strikes will be so much fun to fight once the Master Rank expansion hits. It's a bit unfortunate that he's stuck in the middle of the game. Early and mid-game monsters tend to get rolled through quickly, but that's more of a gripe with the series rather than this specific game. I was immensely happy to see a brand new classification that is completely unlike anything we've really seen. Cephalopods. I guess you've got Yamasukami and Nakarkos, but I don't really think those count. But what a debut for this new class of monsters. New Udra is one of the most amazing additions they could have possibly chosen. I mean, you just fought not one, but two Ajaricons with the help of Olivia, and everything seems like it's working over at the Everforge. 3 more of them appear, and out of the depths, these massive black tentacles appear and drag them below. It's like something out of a horror movie. It's apparently called the Black Flame by the villagers. So yeah, you go to hunt it and it's an octopus. It moves like an octopus, but really, other than that, there's not much about it that really... Oh god, it's on fire! Oh, so that's why it's called the Black Flame. It's such a great reveal, such a fun fight, and its theme is superb. Shu Wu is also good and definitely a creative monster, but New Udra absolutely steals the show for the cephalopods. Rei Dao is another fantastic addition. Its concept is amazing. I mean, a dragon with a railgun on its forehead? How could you not love this guy? My big complaint with Rei is that it just moves a little too slow. There are a lot of attacks that have way too big openings. I'm writing this review before any of the title updates. We know that Arc-Tempered Rei Dao is coming. I hope that fight shortens the attack windows, because right now, it's just a little too easy of a fight for an Apex Predator. I also know that this is only high rank, and I'm sure that the Master Rank expansion will have me carting all the way back to base camp, but it's still just a tad too easy for my liking right now, even the tempered monsters. You've also got Jin Dahad, a Safi Jiva-like fight in low rank. This guy is just chilling in low rank. It's basically an easier Safi fight without all of the stupid siege elements, which, if you didn't do the Safi siege in World, be thankful. It was one of my least favorite parts of the game, and I couldn't have been happier to see a mix of a traditional hunt, a siege, and the Safi fight. You've got it all. The pre-selected ordered areas, the wound mechanics are reminiscent of Safi, the ice spikes to avoid its Nova, everything. And again, it's in low rank, just like the final boss, Zoshia. This is one that I'm really not happy is in low rank because it's not in high rank. I guess a better way to phrase it is that I'm unhappy that it's only in low rank. This is really my biggest gripe with Wilds. Why are the final bosses not in the game at launch? I mean, yeah, Capcom wanted to get Wilds out before their fiscal year ended. I understand that from a business standpoint. But you can't release a game like this and not give the final boss an armor set. It's just stupid. There's no other way around it. It's something I can forgive because the base game is so polished. You know, the combat is great, the gear chase is awesome, the world is beautiful, all that stuff is great, but this can't become a habit for Capcom. They can't be finishing games a month after release. The Monster Hunter team, and really Capcom for that matter, has built up so much good faith within the gaming community, and I'm worried that they may start to throw that away. Obviously, we'll see where they go. I doubt they'll go so far down the rabbit hole that they'll end up like EA or Ubisoft, but it's a little concerning that they didn't implement high-rank Zoshia until after the game released. Fortunately, what we got is pretty fun. It almost feels like a diet Fatalis. There's lots of references to Fatalis' moveset and even its world theme. and even reminds me a little bit of Shara Ishvalda. But we'll wait to see what Capcom has in store for us pretty soon here. It might even be out by the time this video releases. That leads me to my absolute favorite in this game. I love Arkfeld. I mean it. Guardian Arkfeld, normal Arkfeld, whatever. This fight is spectacular. Really, really exceptional. I can't even really put into words why I like this fight so much. I think it's probably because it feels like one of the faster fights in the game. Arkfeld has lots of large attacks and even some combos, but it also has lots of longer openings that you can use to punish. I really like its theme as well. OST feels like a bit of a departure from previous Monster Hunter titles. That's not to say that it's weaker here, far from it, but it's definitely a shift that I have noticed. I'm not humming any tunes from Wilds, but they still have that bombastic impact that they've always had. Of course, there's something negative that I haven't addressed that I've heard others talking about. The performance of the PC port. I'm fortunate enough to have a very high-end PC, so I haven't had to worry about these issues. I'll go ahead and flash my specs on screen real quick. I know that this has been a big issue, but I personally haven't had any problems. Because of that, I feel that it would be unfair for me to make any comments on that. I have noticed that some textures are incredibly blurry, but only when immediately loading into a new area, and then they progressively load in higher quality ones very quickly. I'm actually okay with this since it decreases the load times. I don't really care how high the fidelity of the base camp ground is, just let me go talk to Alma and post a quest. I think I've also had the game crash like once for me when I was grilling a meal, but other than that, I haven't had any issues on my end. But again, I can't speak for everyone on that. I guess I have a few final kind of random thoughts that I've written down. For starters, the cutscenes are gorgeous, like seriously beautiful. And they're all in-engine, which, I mean, yeah, that's nothing new for the series. And it may just be that I'm playing this on a PC, but this game looks stunning. I think the weather adds to that too. You've got this idea that nature is cyclical in the narrative and in the gameplay. So when you get to see all of these areas with cool variations in the weather, it's awesome, it's amazing. And because both the cutscenes and the gameplay look so good, the transitions between them are so organically fluid and seamless. Despite this graphical fidelity, Wilds still keeps the goofiness of old Monster Hunter, something that World wasn't too keen on showing. You've got things like the funny scene of the Palicos running away with the meat, basically all of the Wudwuds, and of course, Rove. He's basically the embodiment of the increasingly verbose meme, and I love him so much for that. He absolutely steals the show whenever he shows up. Monster Hunter Wilds is such an amazing game. I know I've been comparing it to World a lot in this review, with hints of Rise here and there, but it really does feel like Capcom took those games and expanded on both of them. Using the Slinger to gather materials is a great idea. Riding on the Sacred from one area to the next is a great mix of the Palamutes from Rise and the Raider rides from Iceborne. The wound system is just a straight up upgrade from the Clutch Claw. You can team up with your allies like Olivia, which is a mechanic introduced in Rise. The list goes on and on. That's one of the things I love about this series. It feels like decades of refinements. Capcom isn't trying to reinvent the wheel with each passing entry. It's an evolution. And like evolution in the real world, it can be slow. I talk about all these advancements, and while each one is minor by itself, They all represent the 8 years that have passed since World released back in 2017. Although the narrative isn't winning any awards, it's leaps and bounds ahead of anything we've seen in the series. It taps into the themes of nature that the series has tried to further for so long, but failed to do so. The world is brimming with a living, breathing ecosystem. It allows you to just sit there and take in the scenery, but, of course, the highlight of the game is the combat. You're given 14 different Swiss Army knives with countless tools at your disposal. Combos, the wound system, power clashes, focus mode, your inventory, and I didn't even get to mention that you can swap weapons yet! I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of what this game has to offer you in battle. Every weapon feels so different from the last, and even after hundreds of hours in the series and dozens of hours in this game, I'm still figuring out which playstyles with which weapons against which monsters work the best for me personally. And those weapons are only so satisfying because Monster Hunter has the best enemy encounters in the industry. Wilds is full of unique and diverse monsters that, although not the hardest in the series, will still make for rewarding fights. When I write the script for my reviews, I take notes while playing the game, then organize them into overarching subjects like story, gameplay, presentation, and only then do I begin writing. When writing this script, I didn't even need to organize my thoughts. There was nothing that needed clarification. I just knew what I wanted to talk about. That's the only time that's happened. That's how amazing this game is. It does have its issues, which I feel I've addressed, like the Zoshia high rank absence and the performance issues from what I've heard, but those pale in comparison to how much fun I've had playing this game. I've also written this script from start to finish in a single day, and in that day I've had to take multiple breaks just to go back and fight Arkfeld a few times, or Gormagala, or Raydao. Just because I was so excited and enthusiastic about what I was writing about. You know, as you get older, you start to want to go back to the old days when you could just endlessly play a game for hours and enjoy every second of it. That's how I feel with Wilds. I just really love this game. If you've made it this far into the review and you haven't picked up Wilds, dear God, go get it. It can be a little intimidating at first, but stick with it. I am having the time of my life playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't care that I've hunted every monster. I just continue to hunt over and over again. And I couldn't be happier. Thanks for watching.